Welcome, everybody, to MSE Pro Football Weekly. I'm your host, Dan Murphy, alongside my co-host, Dustin Whitehead, and Lawrence Marduz. And guys, it's a big day. It's Super Bowl Sunday. Always a little bittersweet as it's the end of the NFL season, but it's the biggest game of the year. Before we get going, how are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Good.
So what do you guys think? I mean, we talked about before we jumped on, and I talked about another podcast I was on earlier. Just doesn't seem like a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement going into this game. And I'm wondering if it's more kind of a local thing or if it's a national thing. And Lawrence, I'll start with you. Like, what do you think about just going into this game? And it just feels like there's a lot of lack of buzz going into this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, like just from me personally, first, I don't have a dog in the hunt, as you can tell from behind me. I'm trying to latch on to any little thing I can to make the game interesting for me. So for me, I want DeMarcus Lawrence to win a Super Bowl and rub it in Jerry Jones' face. That's my ultimate. Otherwise, I really have no care. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of hate for New England. I know this is their 12th Super Bowl appearance, but neither team really elicits a big response from me. I mean, like we were talking before the show, there's not even a redemption factor for Seattle, because the players that they had against New England the first time, there's none of them around now. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, and gathering from even our own radio shows here, like I don't think they started talking Super Bowl until Thursday or Friday, because they had all this other news going on and locally. So Super Bowl's kind of taking a back seat.
Yeah, Dustin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's more nationally. Like, there's just, the NBA trade deadline just happened, and NHL has stuff going on, and baseball free agents
Olympics are starting. Yeah.
There's so much going on. I listened to some shows, and they make a good point. For me, the football season ends after championship weekend because there's so much hoopla that goes into this 2-week period to get to this game. As for the teams, I mean, neither of them really catch my interest. I'd say the most underrated person on either of these teams is the GM of the Seahawks, John Schneider. I'd say he won Executive of the Year. He's built their first team. They kept him all the way through. They got rid of Pete Carroll. They kept him, and he's done it again. So he's one of the best in the business at it. So we'll see if he can get a second Super Bowl today.
I think you touched on a point there too, Dustin. Like, they need to stop this 2 weeks between the championship game and the Super Bowl.
Never will.
And
especially
it's ridiculous.
No, I agree, but they never will because they want 18 weeks, so then they can do it. Next year it's going to line up perfectly, actually. So there's going to be a lot of divorce because the Super Bowl is going to be on Valentine's Day. Then the next day is President's Day. So, they want that every year, though, where the Super Bowl happens and then the day after is President's Day.
It's going to be a lot of Valentine's Day brunches next year.
Look, honey, I told you the Super Bowl's on.
I told you I'd take you out. I didn't guarantee dinner. It's going to have a really nice brunch.
Right.
That is going to be a little funny storyline next year. If that's the case. But yeah, I know for me locally, covering a lot of these local stories, I mean, there's just so much going on. With the Tigers kind of ruled the week with everything going on with Scooble and then signing Valdez. I mean, that's dominated everything here locally. But then, Michigan and Michigan State, a lot of back and forth with that, with the rivalry. Michigan State had an incredible game last night against Illinois. And then Dustin, like you said, bringing up the Pistons. The Pistons, had a big game against the Knicks and absolutely smoked them again. And you had the trade deadline. They made a small deal. The only one out of that deal that I think may impact maybe is Kevin Huerter if he ever can get his shot going down the stretch. But really not much. Really not really going. Really, the NBA, really the deadline for the most part, at least the day of, really not a lot going on there. But there was some other trades. There was some, guys.
There was a lot of cap stuff. There was I think I was listening earlier. Someone said it was 28 trades in those 2 days, from mini salary dumps to the Jaren Jackson Jr. from Michigan State, all that.
And all those tiny
really
moves.
Yeah, go ahead, Lawrence.
I was saying, on all those tiny moves have shadowed the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we'd really talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Well, before we get in, we are going to get into the Super Bowl and give our predictions and preview it a little bit. Before we get into that, it is the last day of the NFL season, and just want to get like your guys' biggest takeaway from this season. Like you just look at it as a total, in total, like what was the one thing that really stands out to you coming out of the 2025 NFL season? And Lawrence, I'll start with you.
Honestly, for me, it was just a season of just, I think you alluded on one of your posts, like defenses definitely caught up to the offenses. But out of all of that, I'm going to go to the end of the season, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame needs a revamp. I did a little research. 50 members can't be this stupid to not have some of the decisions that they've made. Bill Belichick obviously should have been, no matter what you think about him, Spygate, Deflategate, whatever. Dude's probably the best coach in NFL history. He should have been in. Art Kraft probably should have been in as a contributor. For me, I've been pounding the desk for Darren Woodson to be in there for a long time now. But through this research, I found that each voter has to select a coach, a contributor, and 3 senior selections. Well, these senior selections are taking the places of these modern era guys when honestly, if that's the way they're going to do it, they need to have it split up, have your modern era inductees, and then you have your senior era inductees, because some of these guys should not have been going in over Woodson and Belichick and Kraft. Kuechly went in, and I know he's a beast, but
I'm with you.
He's 8 years. He had to retire due to injury, and you're going to put him in over, again, personally, Darren Woodson, who revolutionized the safety position. So obviously these members have agendas. They have their guys that they're going to pound the desk for, but there's definitely got to be a revamp on the process of putting these guys in the Hall of Fame, because they're putting in senior members because, well, they may never get another chance again. Well, okay, well, I'm sorry, but if this senior guy is not as good as the Hall of Fame, this Bill Belichick, what are we doing here? So to me, that's just caught my attention. Like there's got to be a revamp of this process.
Yeah, any system where Bill Belichick is up for the Hall of Fame and doesn't get in, that system is broken. Like, just, full stop. Like, if he's not in, then what are we doing here? Like, right. What is this? He's the greatest coach of all time. I don't care about any other stuff. I don't care if reporters didn't like him. I don't care about any of that. At the end of the day, he is the greatest coach of all time, and he's up to be in the Hall of Fame. He has to be in. End of story.
Yes, regardless. And honestly, I've heard a couple of reports where they're, like you're talking about the reporters, they didn't like him, and they're using all those the cheating scandals kind of as like we're going to use we're going to make you wait. Okay, well, that same logic better apply to Tom Brady next year then. He was part of it, but it's not like he should go in first ballot. So what are you going to do next year? You're going to put in Belichick, Kraft, and Brady all in at the same time? No, they're going to make one of them wait. Unless they revamp this, there's going to be a lot of drama next year.
Yeah.
Dustin, any thoughts on that, on the NFL Hall of Fame and how it's obviously a broken system at this point in terms of how guys get in?
Yeah, no, for sure. Next year, it's not Brady, though. It's like Ben Roethlisberger, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Adrian
Peterson. I think Roethlisberger doesn't have
So,
anything to bring up on his resume.
Yeah, exactly. But I bet he'll probably be in over Antonio Brown, who's, anyways, better, but an idiot. The Hall of Fame is broken because, another thing that was brought up I saw this week was, the last offensive lineman to get elected in was Joe Thomas. And you got some stud offensive linemen on there. Marshall Yanda, he was, one of the first 3 out. I mean, there's good players. But and they switched the Hall of Fame rules last year so Belichick could be on the ballot this year. The dude is no spring chicken. You're supposed to wait 5 years post NFL career. They switched it for coaches to be 2 years or whatever it was. And now he doesn't even get put in, which is dumb.
Yeah, so they switch it for him, but don't
and then they don't put him in.
Don't put him in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't care if his girlfriend's like, could be like my younger sister. It is what it is.
Well, I think
Like,
they broke up.
people
Though.
have, like,
Last
people have all these
thing I
things to
saw, they
say.
broke up.
Really, I saw a thing where she was wearing, everything's AI on social media anymore, so it's probably fake, but something about like, what was it? It was something stupid. Something about craft or whatever. Doesn't matter. But anyways, the Hall of Fame. Yeah, no, definitely a broken system. But a lot of these guys, there's gonna be a lot of first ballot candidates next year. And you just had Ben Roethlisberger issues, Adrian Peterson too. It's like the class of issues besides Gronk. So
well, that's the thing. This isn't a great class. This would have been a perfect time to put Kraft and Belichick in, who are automatics. Because
exactly.
you wait for these guys, then you're going to be kicking guys out that should absolutely be in.
Of course,
it's just, I mean, the whole thing is just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And I get that these guys have off-field issues, but the Hall of Fame is what you do on the field. Like, I
agree.
Terrell Owens should have been a first ballot. He wasn't. Antonio Brown's probably going to be made to wait because he's a psychopath. But on the field, but it's a flawed system. They really need to figure out a better way to enhance the modern era selectees and then put the seniors on their own ballot. Maybe 2 separate days. The NFL is all about making money. Maybe you have a modern era day, and then on the Sunday before the game or whatever you want to do, have your seniors go in. But there's got to be a fix.
Yeah. Dustin, what was your biggest takeaway from this season?
From the season, I know the NFL stands for not for long, but I mean, apparently that means for coaches, obviously too. But there's 10 firings and like 8 of the hires are retreads.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you believe in it. Like, you're firing guys so quick that you can't develop the up and coming Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen every year, or this year, for example, the former Michigan Jesse Minter. So like those guys, those are blue chip guys in my opinion. But then you have to use all these retreads because you don't let staffs develop or teams develop, and you always talk about how culture is the most important thing, but then you don't let the culture get developed and give people time, like the Lions have finally given Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, for example, of a team that's built up through the draft, and you give it time. But then you got Aaron Glenn on the Jets, who's like on the hottest seat that there is, and he's been there for a year, and it's just over and over again, retread after retread. And then you got Robert Saleh, who I think deserves a second chance, but he goes to the Titans, and you got third opportunity with a third I would say blue blood franchise with Mike McCarthy, and then
I want to, and that's what you're Dustin. I want to get your thoughts on that, Lawrence, with McCarthy, obviously a longtime Cowboys coach, getting the Steelers job. What were your thoughts on that when you saw that?
Was he born under a lucky star?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Packers, Cowboys, Steelers. It's like,
and it's no secret that he's a big Pittsburgh guy. Like, it's always been his dream job. And I don't hate that he went there. I think that he's going to be the shortest tenured Steelers head coach in their history.
I'd agree.
Steelers have always been known to bring in the young guy.
That's bold.
I mean, not that bold. Come on.
I know I'm joking because like every coach is there for 20 to 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not the young and up and coming coach that they're, what they did with Tomlin and Chuck Noll before that, and then Cowher after that. Like, they just developed their coach and let him develop his culture, as you were talking about. Well, what is McCarthy's end game here? Like, what's the
9-8? That's all they care about right now. They want to keep that streak going. Want to keep it going. Maybe win a division once every 3-4 years. Go 9-8.
That streak as someone who has gone through a streak like that and then watched it tumble down very, 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 very quickly, Pittsburgh's in for a rude awakening.
Or maybe
Yeah,
they're
I
not.
was
They're so
I
lucky.
was incredibly surprised with McCarthy being hired. Who I thought the Pittsburgh might go after, or at least make a strong attempt for, was Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. And I feel like it's only a matter of time, and I thought it might be this year with so many openings. He is going to be an NFL head coach, and I don't see him going anywhere else in college. I think he'll be the Notre Dame coach until a good opening becomes available in the NFL. But I thought, man, Pittsburgh would have been perfect for him because I think he's the type of guy that would just fit that role, like long term, be a guy that's there forever. Man, I thought that would have been a home run. And I don't know if maybe they did maybe throw some feelers out and he said no. I don't know. But I felt like if he's ever going to leave, that would be a fantastic spot for him. And then for them not to get a guy like that and get McCarthy, I'm like, what the hell? Really? Pittsburgh, McCarthy, a retread? Like, come on.
It just seems so. It almost seemed like maybe they missed on the guy that they wanted, and they just kind of had to make a choice real fast. And maybe they think that getting McCarthy is going to keep Rodgers for one more year. I don't know. I don't know that Rodgers and McCarthy really had that great of a relationship when they were in Green Bay. So, it'll be interesting. I don't know who else is on the Pittsburgh coaching staff, if they've got a young guy like a DC or an OC who could be mentored by McCarthy and then take over for him. But, after dealing with McCarthy for a few years, I can tell you, like
he's not the worst, right? But he's not.
He's really a.
It's like if you're the 18th best coach, do you really get 3 chances in this league?
At those franchises.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like you're like, he's like the 15th.
He's a good coach. But
that's part of developing these coaches and them all getting fired so quick that this guy on his resume has a Super Bowl, so they're like, man, okay.
It just seems like if you're going to go and get a McCarthy, why don't you just keep Tomlin then?
Right.
Really, what's the difference, really? I mean,
honestly, I think he wanted out. Like, I think he was just done. He needed a break, but
could be.
Like, what was it? If there's a good chance that McCarthy ended up with the Titans too. That was like big talk for a while. So he was probably going to get a job this cycle. So just weird.
Well, there was 10 spots. He had a good chance.
Yeah. I'm just saying, there isn't very many first-time coaches. I mean, what was another stat I heard this offseason at some point? Didn't fact check it, but it's like the Cardinals have been around for over 100 years, and they've never had a coach make it more than 6 years.
Wow.
So really?
Yeah, I heard that stat. So good.
How long was Gene Stallings there? Wasn't he there for a while?
Maybe he was. Maybe it's a misrepresented stat. I don't know. I'm going off something I heard. I didn't fact check it.
At least in recent history, I can't think of a coach that was there for.
I know.
No, definitely not recent history.
I know the Cardinals don't matter. No one cares about them. But I'm just saying that's an example of a team that if that's true, that's crazy. So they were before they made that Super Bowl, they were considered bottom of the barrel historic franchise too. So I guess it would make sense. But
yeah.
Anyways, my point about it all is that it's just not for long. Is maybe not just for players anymore. Because when Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni got hired in 2022 and are in 6th and 7th longest tenured coach, I mean,
it's crazy.
Andy Reid, 2013. I mean, that guy.
I don't know how Sirianni still has a job.
What?
I don't know how Sirianni still has a job.
Well, he won a Super Bowl.
Players hate him.
To make
you got a Super Bowl. I mean, that's all it takes, man. They
give
you a lot of rope when you win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just for the last couple of years we've been waiting. At least I've been waiting just for the whole Eagles thing to crash down on him, and depending on what they do with AJ Brown this year, I don't see him. You might be right, Dustin. He could be gone after this next year.
Could be,
because I can tell you what his players they don't like him.
This is how you're getting old though. When these it's like the continuation of the second, third, fourth, fifth round quarterback draft pick that becomes a QB coach that keeps becoming an offensive coordinator. Because Sean Mannion, that guy's was just at Oregon State yesterday. That's crazy, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
You brought up culture. Dustin. It's like
That's what I'm
that's the
saying.
complete opposite of culture. And it always goes back to it's like, okay, do you just collect the most talent, regardless of issues or anything else? You just collect the most talent at all costs and try to build a roster that way, or do you really focus on what the Lions have done in
Look at the
building
Steelers.
culture and getting guys that are good culture fits and personality fits and are going to play the way you want them to play? You know,
Right.
all the grit, all that stuff.
Right.
But the Eagles can just flash that Super Bowl ring. Like that's all they got to do, man. Just flash the Super Bowl ring and say, "Yeah, hey, it doesn't matter, man. We won it all." Like,
Right.
yeah, our culture sucks. Everybody hates each other, but we won a Super Bowl.
I mean, we're bashing on the Steelers though, but they're the definition of like their fan base is like, man, we got to get rid of Mike Tomlin like for like the past decade, it feels like. And then you have this guy that they draft the players that fits his schemes. They draft guys that, if they draft a head case, they know that they have him to take care of that player and groom him to be a better receiver, like George Pickens or Antonio Brown or like all those receivers. So like you have this leader that the team is for, and if he was fired, like that whole team probably would have revolted, like the Cam Hayward. So like,
Yes.
You build a culture, then you win, and then you got to stabilize it, and then you can build up higher. But no one wants to give anybody chances anymore because they're not for long league. So
all of these coaches that got fired, man, like just for me, like I like Brian Schottenheimer, but part of me was like, man, can't we fire Schottenheimer now and call Tomlin or call Harbaugh, or can we let me get one of these other guys? Like, why couldn't the Cowboys be in this cycle looking for a head coach? And let me get one of those guys. But it is what
like,
it is.
The Cowboys are kind of like that rich team that likes to be cheap though, because they just kind of picked him, right?
Well,
like
that's how they're rich.
They could have had, well, I don't know if they could have had a Ben Johnson because they wouldn't give him the control, but like they could have had some of these like high profile guys, like Liam Cohen seems smarter than Schottenheimer, but I mean, whatever.
Well, it's funny with Harbaugh, maybe Tom to accept, but more Harbaugh. He accepts the Giants job, and then a couple days later, the Bills job. But you wonder if maybe he thought, God, I should have just waited a little bit longer, because that's a Super Bowl roster, Super Bowl caliber quarterback just sitting there. Where the Giants, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time there. But the Bills, man, they're ready to win now.
The Bills is the perfect example of being stupid, though. Because, like,
just watch that press conference.
That owner is crazy, like, whatever. But, like, McDermott built that culture and built that team up, like, and all the players loved him. And they have a good defense. And you just needed, like, the offense is pretty good. But now you're going to have none of that defense of, like, philosophy anymore. And you're just hiring a first-time head coach who's bombed out at 3 different places already as an OC.
Yeah, it's wild. I remember seeing a tweet. It was, a sarcastic tweet saying, Buffalo's looking for a new coach. They got the offense, they got the quarterback, but they could really use an experienced head coach who has a defensive background. You know who would be perfect for that would be McDermott.
And of course, like that's a different situation, right? Because like everything's situational, and there's no excuse team building wise for them not to get over the hump or whatever, because you didn't have to face Mahomes or Lamar or Burrow this year, but. Man, if they were going to make the Super Bowl, they were going to face every badass defense that there is, and they couldn't make it through. So,
well, and I think that's a little misleading though, because, and I get the matchup, Lamar versus Allen, but those defenses that Allen would have played on those teams, it wouldn't have mattered who the quarterback was, because I think those defenses would have stepped up. And Kansas City's defense is great. But Mahomes just had the offense you couldn't keep up. So, I think I get it that the Bills didn't have to play those teams, but I think it's kind of.
Well, their GM, but they extend their GM and give him the promotion when, he hasn't filled in those holes over the years from a talent drafting perspective. But it's weird. I don't know. Every situation's different, but.
Yeah, it's one of the situations with the Bills. It didn't matter the matchups. It was just the same old story. I don't even think it matters who they would have played. It's the same old story, man. With the 50-50 plays just don't go their way. They just don't go their way when they need them to. And they're just absolutely snake bit. They're very much, a curse, you could say, that is on the Buffalo Bills because how agonizingly close they have been throughout that team's history, and to not win it, and it feels like this is their best chance with the quarterback they got, and they cannot get over the hump. And now it feels like, we always talk about windows, on our podcast when we talk about the Lions. I wonder if that window's closed on Buffalo now with all this situation with the firing of the coach, and I wonder if they're going to be able to kind of get back to it if they've kind of shut the window with everything.
I just don't know if they have enough blue chip guys.
Yeah.
Do you know if I was Buffalo,
blue chip players,
I would be calling Philadelphia about AJ Brown. If I'm Buffalo, go and get me that number one guy who I know Allen can get him the ball, keep him happy, keep him productive, and then your offense can really move. And then you just fill in on defense if you're Buffalo. But, I don't know that Philly's wanting to move them or if they're going to move them, what they're going to ask for. But that would be the first call. If I was Buffalo, that's my first phone call.
He'd be a great fit on really any team, from just on the field production standpoint. I'm not talking culture in that point, but just in terms of what he could bring to that offense, because they got the tight ends, they got some deep threats, but they need that guy on like a 3rd and 4 that he could just run that quick slant. He's going to get it. Like it's there every time when you need it. AJ Brown can get that.
If they can afford him. If they could afford him, I'm sure they would take him. They're paying a lot of slightly above average guys a lot of money. It's just a weird team. I know they have some decent tackles that they paid. They paid their running back, who's pretty good. On defense though, I feel like they need a whole reset because they're not gonna run the same scheme, and they got all these small guys. And anyways,
that's where I think, man. I think their window may have shut, man, with firing their coach and revamping the coaching staff. I don't know, man. It just seems like at this point, because I like Buffalo and I like Allen, and went to Lions were out. I was rooting for them, and then to see that press conference, and just like, man, they're a disaster. Man, this is bad. This is real bad for Buffalo. But just sticking with our topic, for mine, my biggest takeaway this season was just it felt like the defenses have started to step up and started to dominate, and we see with the Super Bowl matchup with the Patriots and Seahawks that it's two of the best defenses in football. And we hadn't seen, Lawrence, you brought up Mahomes. It was a little bit of a down year for him. Burrow didn't make the playoffs. Lamar, even on the NFC side, there wasn't a ton of the top quarterbacks. Goff didn't play in the playoffs, didn't make it. The one that was in there was Stafford. He gets knocked out by Seattle. And, I bring back, I really look at the NFC Championship game, and I look at that last drive for the Rams and Stafford. Well, the second to last drive, the one that really ended it, where they got near the goal line, and it was 4th and goal, and it's McDaniel versus McVay, and McDaniel brings, they bring it looking like they're going to bring just a full out rush, like they're bringing 9, and McVay runs. You can see him running down the sideline like he's going to call a timeout, and then he doesn't. He's like, no, I'm going to let it go. So they run the play, and then they drop everybody. Seattle drops everybody. Stafford's got nowhere to go with the ball, ends up being an incompletion, and that's it. And I'm like, holy cow. And there was other aspects of the game where I thought McVay got out-coached, but I thought McDaniel just what an incredible coaching job. I thought he's really done all season, but I really thought in that game he out-coached, a Super Bowl winning coach, an experienced coach, an offensive genius. And I thought as a defensive mind, he outcoached him in that game and won that game for Seattle. And I'm just thinking overall, man, it kind of feels like that way across the NFL, that maybe the defensive minded coaches and the defensive minded teams are starting to rule the day now, where it was so many years where it was the passing offenses and the passing quarterbacks and the star quarterbacks that dominated, and the Mahomes and the Burrows and the Staffords, and now we're seeing the defenses starting to take hold. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Start with you, Lawrence. What do you think about just the aspect of maybe the NFL's, the tide's turning a little bit, and maybe it's a little bit more about defense now?
Oh, I firmly believe that. I think, even going through the year of doing these power rankings, if you look at the Texans, who started off slow on offense, but they had their defense carry them into the playoffs. Speaking for the Cowboys, if they would have just had an average defense, they could have been playoff contenders. The defense, like I've always believed that the defenses are what gets you to the Super Bowl. You know, obviously you need to score points to win, but when you have a defense like New England, like Seattle, it affords your offense time to get its rhythm, time to kind of get its feet under it. Defenses for me are always going to be like, I love a defensive football game. I feel like that's what you're going to see today. It's just defense, you know, it's never, I know offense is what sells the tickets. Defenses are what wins the games, man. Like, and that's these teams that are finally realizing it, like, oh man, we really need to build our defense up. I mean, I don't know why that ever went away, quite honestly.
Dustin, what do you think? You think this is just an anomaly, you know, kind of a blip on the radar? It's just 1 year where the defense is kind of dominated and you're not seeing the star quarterbacks? Or are we going to get back to the passing offenses and seeing those star quarterbacks kind of dominate again starting next year?
Yeah, I don't think it's an anomaly. I think it's going to continue because if you look at we talked about the Hall of Fame and you look at the upcoming ballots and all these guys that retired in the past 5 to 8 years and all the guys that are older, like Aaron Rodgers and the up-and-coming talent that's coming up that is not been as great. I mean, quarterback play is just down. But real quick about McDaniel, don't you think the Ravens wish they would have just went a different direction a couple of years ago and just made him the head coach?
Oh, McDonald.
Yeah,
because they're getting like the secondary guy. They're getting Minter.
Yeah.
You just look at Michigan when Harbaugh had the opportunity. He's like, you know, well, Jim Harbaugh, you know, he went to John Harbaugh's brother and like, hey, give me your two best defensive minds on your staff. I need a high quality defensive coordinator to help change things around. And he's like, well, I got two for you. And it was McDonald and Minter. And Harbaugh ended up going with McDonald. And then he had the 1 year there at Michigan in 2021, and then goes to back to Baltimore as a defensive coordinator. Minter actually went to Vanderbilt for a year as a defensive coordinator, and then came over to Michigan and replaced McDonald and was, you know, on the 23 team that won the national title. But obviously at the time, you know, Jim Harbaugh, you know, had the two to compare, and he chose McDonald at the time. So just in general, I agree with you. You wonder what the Ravens kind of wish they had gone with McDonald at the time, because I cannot get over that NFC Championship game. I was so impressed by the job he did in that game.
Yeah, no, there's like he's a guy that got to develop up, and he's still on the younger side. He's only like 38, maybe. Like, I mean, he has a lot of potential going forward, especially if he wins today. But yeah, no, I think defense is. Like, you know, rules will change and things will change, and, you know, it'll probably get back to, you know, more offense again. It's a cycle, you know, but I do think that defense, especially if you have like two premier edge rushers like the Texans, I mean, good luck. I mean, honestly, offensive line play is getting harder and harder. It's harder and harder to find elite guys at those spots, and dudes just keep getting more and more athletic. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, and just, you know, we brought up Minter and McDonald. We talked about, you know, they were both defense coordinators in Michigan. It's just fascinating to me. You know, Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Chargers. Minter, now head coach of the Ravens. McDonald coaching in the Super Bowl, now head coach of Seattle. And the guy that got handed the reins was Sharon Moore. And what a disaster. What a disaster that turned out to be. And just such difference between everybody that was involved in that team in that era and where their stories ended up, man.
But I believe McDonald was initially with the Ravens, and then he went to Michigan to get the head coach or the DC job. And
yeah, they both were. Yeah, that's why I said they both were. McDonald and Minter were both there, and Jim Harbaugh went to John.
Yeah,
and said,
okay,
hey,
that's what you said. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, give me your two best defensive minds that you got, and it was McDonald and Minter. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. But guys, let's go ahead. We've danced around it. We've avoided it because none of us are that excited. Let's be honest about this game. I think we're all. I know for me personally, I'm more excited. I'm about to pick up some chicken wings after this game, or after this podcast. I think that's what I'm most excited about tonight. But it is the last game of the year. It is the Super Bowl, and there's a lot of storylines necessarily. It isn't necessarily a ton of stars, but at the end of the day, man, these are the two best teams in the NFL. They're going to kick it off, and we're going to decide who the champion, the world champion of the NFL is. And when you just lay it out like that, I mean, it's always special, right, man? It's Super Bowl Sunday, so let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Like, I guess let's start with this, and Lawrence, I'll start with you. What is one thing that the biggest thing that you're looking at this game, whether it's a matchup, whether it's a coaching matchup, whether it's maybe a statistic? What is one thing that kind of stands out when you look ahead to this game?
Well, for me, it's a matchup, and for me, it's the key matchup would be Christian Gonzalez on JSN.
Yeah.
If he can stay with, I know Gonzalez has that, I guess, history of being able to lock people down. I see him, I feel like he's a great corner. I don't know that he's going to be able to stick with JSN. I also don't know what the New England game plan is, if they're going to have him shadow him the entire game. So, to your point with McDonald, getting JSN moving and in motion, get him out different routes. Is Gonzalez going to follow? Is he going to be the main guy covering him? But to me, that's the matchup to look at. If they can limit JSN's big plays, then New England has a chance. I think, being only a 4.5-point favorite, doesn't really scream a whole lot of confidence in Seattle because of both defenses are that good. But that's the matchup I'm looking at.
And Dustin, how about you? What's one thing that stands out, researching this game and previewing this game?
You mentioned that matchup, but I'm a big Devin Witherspoon guy, so I think he'll play a big factor in locking down the Patriots receivers is on the opposite side. But yeah, I'm not really. I think Gonzalez will do good on JSN. I kind of have if I was going to do a sneaky Super Bowl MVP pick, it would be like Rashid Shaheed. Maybe he gets a return touchdown in there or something like that. It'd be kind of a cool story, because if Cooper Kupp was a 2-time Super Bowl MVP as a receiver, maybe he can get in on the action. Both defensive lines got a lot of talent, a lot of good young players, good vets. It's going to be, I don't know, I either see it being like a Seahawks blowout or like a tight, close game where maybe the Patriots steal it, because we talk about coaching. Mike Vrabel, this whole playoffs, has game managed the crap out of every game that there has been, that he has been a part of. He has killed it. And, one of the key things in that Denver game was they would do late switches, and he would bring out his guys, and he would drain the clock on the defense, and then the young quarterback on the Broncos would have to rush his play with 5 seconds. So just that strategic game planning, both of these coaches are excellent. So
yeah.
And obviously the Seahawks offensive coordinator is going to be the head coach of the Raiders. So is that Matt Patricia looking ahead, or is he going to have a big game calling?
Yeah. Well, you brought up Shaheed. I think that's the aspect I'm looking at, because I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a tight game. And I'm looking to see, can one of these defenses or special teams make a play to make a difference? Whether it's a big return, possibly for a touchdown, or just a long return to set up that team's offense in scoring range. Because I think it's going to be one of those type of plays. A turnover that gets a team in really good position, or a defensive touchdown, or a special teams play that puts an offensive position, or a special teams touchdown itself. That's going to be the difference in this one, because I think this is going to be a really tight game. And a lot of people are leaning Seattle. I know there's talks of maybe Seattle blowing them out. I just don't see that. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, defensive battle. As we mentioned, these are two of the best, if not the best, defensive coaches in the game. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see that play out. And, as I talked about, my biggest takeaway this season is how the defenses have performed. And I thought defenses have overtaken the offenses. And I think we're going to see that. I think it's going to be a display of what we've seen all season. And I think it's going to be a defensive battle. So, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and make our picks for this game. And then Dustin, I'll start with you on this one. What is your prediction? How do you see this game playing out?
It's supposed to. I heard there's a chance of rain, so that's something
Really?
to think
Okay.
about. Kind of lean like a tight, close game, like 24-17. Maybe Seahawks get like a late touchdown, win 31-17.
Lawrence, what do you think?
Well, I didn't know about that forecast. It kind of gives me a little pause, but looking at both these teams, Seattle. God, it's hard for me to do this because I'm not a big Sam Darnold believer.
I know it's weird, isn't it?
He led the league in turnovers, and he's playing quarterback in the Super Bowl. So,
Did he?
Yes,
Did he really?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know that.
I think Seattle wins somewhat easily, but I think they win because of Kenneth Walker and because of JSN making some plays. So for me, I'm looking at 28-17 Seattle.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning the same way. I think it's going to be like I said, I think it's going to be a very close game. I see. There we go. So I think it's, like I said, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be a defensive battle, but I got Seattle winning this one. And you brought up Sam Darnold, and man, it is hard to put any confidence into him in what he's just, throughout his career. He always feels like he's going to make that big mistake or make that play that's the non-winning play. But this playoff run, man, he's played well. And he played really well in that NFC Championship game, throwing for 3 touchdowns, and he obviously played well enough to win. And I think he's going to play well enough to win in this game. I don't think he's going to, light the world on fire by any means or have a huge passing day, but I think he's going to do enough, and I think he's going to avoid that key turnover that could lose the game. And like I said, I think it's going to be a defensive play or a special teams play that can make the difference, and I think it's going to be Seattle that's going to make that play. And I would say it's low scoring, I like 2017, 23-17, something in that range. I think it's going to be a good competitive game. But I think Seattle's going to come out. I think they've been the best team all year. We've all kind of discredited them, but they just kept showing it week after week after week, and they kept proving themselves. And that's why they're here, and that's why they're the favorite, and that's why I'm picking them. And guys, before we log off, you guys got any final thoughts about this season, about this Super Bowl, or just this kind of season as a whole? Lawrence, I'll go with you.
Just on a personal level, I pray to the gods, football gods above, that Christian Parker was a good defensive coordinator hire for my Cowboys. I've heard a lot of good things about him. He's one of those up and coming coaches. My first opinion was like, oh man, I needed someone who's been in the league a little bit and like knows defense. But I'm gonna trust Shoddy. Hopefully the defense comes along. Quite honestly, man, I'm in draft mode. I am in draft mode. I think I've probably done over 100 mock drafts already. So draft mode and scout mode, that's kind of where my football season's done for me.
Dustin, how about you? Any final thoughts before we log off here?
Yeah, I'll just keep it Super Bowl based. I remember my first game as a season ticket holder was Sam Darnold's first NFL game against the Detroit Lions. He opened up the game with a pick 6 to Quandre Diggs, first pass of his career, and then they came back and curb stomped the Lions like 40-7. And it was the start of his career, and that team
was that Patricia's first game?
Yes. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later they beat the Patriots, and he was a god, and that was the end of it. But Sam, thinking about his career and the fact that 2019 against this Patriot franchise, he saw a ghost and he became a meme, and his career was buried, and the Panthers buried him some more, and Kyle Shanahan kind of revived him, and then Kevin O'Connell molded him into clay, and now he's here with the Seahawks. It's pretty impressive, especially when you consider the quarterbacks in his draft class: Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen, obviously, but the other one's really good too. Who was that? Oh yeah, Lamar Jackson. None of them made a Super Bowl. So, it's pretty impressive. He actually pointed out he made the Super Bowl as a backup on the 49ers in a press conference. I forgot about that, but it's impressive that he's the first one to make it as a starting quarterback. And I guess we'll see tonight if it's going to be Sam Darnold Week 18 against the Lions last year, or if it's Sam Darnold who can't be stopped just throwing deep balls and to JSN and handing off to Kenneth Walker. So.
You know what, though? To your point, Dustin, it goes to show you, though, your career's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
So,
no, sir.
Good for him for, I'll say this, I may not trust him, but good for him for fighting, and, he's on the verge of being a champion.
Yeah. No doubt.
It is.
Lawrence,
you brought up you're knee deep in draft research, and I want to bring that up. That's going to be a big part of this show. This kind of like been a little bit of a beta version of this podcast. We've done a couple episodes now, but we're really going to get going and try to do this weekly once we get closer to the draft. That's going to be a big aspect of this podcast. Is covering the draft. We're going to be looking at everything across the NFL. Obviously, a big focus on what the Detroit Lions are going to do, and Lawrence will bring some stuff out with the Cowboys. But we're going to be covering it all. We're going to be really looking at the NFL and the prospects that are coming up, and we'll have more information about that for you guys down the road. But our plan is to do a live show at least for the first round and do the entire first round. Maybe bring in some special guests, throughout the broadcast. But we're really going to have highlights and graphics and all kinds of different things, and really try to do something special for the draft coverage. So really looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to getting this podcast really going and doing some cool things with it. But that was our Super Bowl preview for tonight, and we thank all you guys for listening. For Dustin, for Lawrence, I'm Dan Murphy, and we'll see you guys again down the road.